everyone's looking for the young guy. They're looking for McVay. I think take a shot out. Todd Bowles, get him a second shot at head coach and see if he can do it.
I don't think they will. If they don't have Anthony Davis, I'm saying it right now. If Anthony Davis is out for the playoffs, they don't make it out of the first round.
It's crazy. And our kids will know how great Tom Brady is because he's going to be playing.
Yes, it is 15.0%.
That's what the Yankees brought Garrett Cole to do.
He was a 6th-round pick. This is a fairy tale story that's being written in front of our eyes.
People like to call them their JV team, and they just stole one of their better players.
They didn't struggle against the Padres. The Padres didn't really put up a fight in most of the games.
Jerry Jones, hope you're listening.
Hi, I'm Landon Bowe, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NHL Opinions of the Week. Once again, second day in a row, but this one now we're reviewing Trade Deadline. Austin and I tied 2 for 2. No OT, overtime loss. And once again, I'm Kevin, and I'm joined by the man worth several second-round picks, Austin.
I appreciate that. I do. Being worth multiple second-round picks is at least better than worth one. Or in Kyle Korver's case, one of my favorite players in NBA history, he got traded for a printer. So, better than that.
Yeah. I'll say I'm on LTIR, and then so we have NBA, and then I'll be on the NHL. Because I know it wasn't an NHL liner, or intro. I was like, I'll find a way to make it, and that's how it is. I'm on the LTIR, which was used a lot by the Coyotes today.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of teams use it to their advantage. Historically speaking, the Lightning have done it the best, but I think more teams are getting used to using it and are figuring out the best way and when to use it, which type of players, how often, all that stuff. So it's good that we see more parity in that aspect, but it wasn't a big trade deadline, just the day itself, but we're going to go over the 5 biggest trades in our opinion. They're not necessarily ranked. We're just talking about the 5 biggest ones.
Yeah, and probably the biggest one to me is Patrick Kane to the Rangers, because we were like, oh, where's Kane going to go? They traded for Tarasenko. And the Rangers are like, hold up. We'll make it work. And they did. And it was a little nice trade few weeks. It was very busy then. And I'm still not sure that the Rangers got better, but I'm just not sure if they're still if they're now the best team in the East, because the Bruins also loaded up.
Yeah, the Bruins through 61 games, first team or fastest team in NHL history to 100 points. They have 101 points in 61 games. If they were to go 500 the rest of the year, they'd still end up with 122 points.
Wow. It's crazy.
Yeah, they're on pace to break the record for the most points in the NHL season, and I would love to see it happen, but a ring is more important. A cup is more important, and I think everybody on that team, the veteran presence, knows that. And I'd say another one of the biggest trades is getting Dmitry Orlov, who now has 8 points in 4 games with the Bruins and is playing out of his mind.
Yeah, I remember defense. Offense was great, and they've always been missing a defender since the defenseman that left for the Blues. Torrey Krug left. And so when they made that trade, and then I know Taylor Hall went down, but then they got Bertuzzi.
Yeah, Tyler Bertuzzi, yep. So yeah, I think the Kane one should have a big impact, but I think it's even more important for a Bruins team, a team that scores a lot. Their goal differential is plus 103. So adding a defensive player, especially one who's been so productive offensively as well, I think is a huge trade. And while Kane is definitely a big one, I do think they could be too top heavy, and we'll see if their depth comes back to bite them.
Yes, my thing, I was thinking it was that I can see they're a little bit too happy. The Bruins just seem to have a good farm system. The Rangers really just gave up picks in all those deals, or did they give up prospects?
They gave up, I think, 1 or 2, but no notable ones.
Because I was wondering how many current number 1 or former number 1 overall picks are on the Rangers now. Because you have Lafreniere, He's on the third line. Was
Mm,
Kane a number 1 overall pick or no?
I don't believe so. I think Kane was like 3.
Okay.
I'm checking right now though. He
Uh,
was. Oh no, he was 1. He was 1.
let's go.
Uh, I think that's the only
Oh yeah.
2. I'm checking right now. They have 1, 2, Kane, Lafreniere. Those are the only 2 I
Okay.
see. They have a number 2 pick, being Kabakako, obviously, and they have a lot of other firsts, but only 2 number 1s. But it is interesting. You don't always see 2 number 1s on the same team.
Yeah, and I was like also thinking stars. It seems like the Rangers have it because they got Tarasenko, got Kane, and of course Lafreniere is the number 1 overall pick, but he's not really a star yet. With the Bruins, like I do think they have some stars, but it's really just homegrown talent, and they've kind of just exploded.
Yeah, and that's really how you need to build your team is around. In my opinion, I mean, you can go with the big trades, but I think building your farm system is by far the best way to do it.
Yeah, and that's something where I would like to protect the farm, which just personally, I like the Max Domi trade for the Stars. I'm not sure how others feel about it. I know
Yeah,
he's not great defensively.
he has potential to be, well, he will be because he has 49 points. He will be the 5th player on the Stars to have 50 points once he
Oh, wow.
eventually gets 1 point. And there's only 2 other teams that have 5 50-point getters, and neither of them are in the playoffs, Ottawa and the Sabres. But it is impressive to see that. And I think that is a big trade because we've seen injuries be a problem for the Stars in the past. And the depth of the team is definitely bolstered by this. I thought they were going to trade for a defenseman. I didn't think Klingberg or Carlson, because obviously in our predictions video I said that neither of them were going there. But I did think they would make a move for a defenseman. And seeing them not do that, it makes me question a little bit because defensive ability have been more of their issue this year than offensive. But I do like that they added Domi because it's more depth.
Yeah, I was curious, which is also I'm curious with how the Rangers line. I just haven't seen the recent lines because Panarin. There's a
Panarin,
relationship
yeah,
between him
Panarin
and
will
Panarin.
play with Kane. Panarin and
Okay.
Kane played together, and they were dominant with the Blackhawks in 15, 16, and 16, 17 before Panarin was eventually traded to Columbus. So I definitely think
Okay.
they'll play together.
And then where's Tarasenko? Is
Tarasenko's
Tarasenko
probably was Zibanejad. So
okay?
they'd pair Zibanejad and probably Kreider.
Okay, I remember seeing Kreider.
Yeah,
And then
I think it'd be Kreider, Zibanejad, Tarasenko.
I remembered I was looking at some lines and it reminded me of like a Tampa Bay. So Panarin and Kane are probably second line, right? And then
Yes, well, I mean,
the
first and second line don't matter really.
okay,
It's more top 6 is what you hear. I know
okay.
you're not that familiar with
Well, yeah,
hockey,
I
but you want your top 4 defensemen. So there's 3 lines of defense and 6 players in total. You can have a 7 defenseman. Some teams do, some teams don't. You really decide whether you want 13 forwards or a 7 defenseman, one or the other. And then for forwards, there's 4 lines, and your top 6, which is your top 2 lines, is really where you see most of your goal production. Now there are some good top 6 players that are defensive, like Patrice Bergeron or many other players, but those are normally your offensive players in your top 6, and their top 6 is dominant, and they may have the best top 6 in hockey. We'll have to see how they play together because playing together is definitely different. We've seen it in every sport. Does not matter which one. If you get traded, it's not always going to work, no matter how good you played other places.
that's true. Yeah, I was thinking those are like you said, more top six, and then to me, what we've seen recently is the bottom six, just how good the bottom six is. Because the Tampa Bay, I think, had a great bottom six as well, in addition to their top six.
Yeah, and bottom 6 is really where you win championships because those guys have to play. And if your bottom 6 is really good, like the Bruins' bottom 6 this year has been utterly amazing. And as a Bruins fan watching a good portion of their games, it's really what is the difference. Like Pasternak can score a lot of goals, but if your bottom 6 is horrible, it's not going to matter because they're going to be bad defensively. They're not going to get goals when Pasta doesn't. and they really, the depth of your team is really important, especially in hockey, because you have 30-second to a minute shifts, and then you have to come off. That's a big reason or a big difference between hockey and other sports. It's the reason why in basketball with LeBron, you can play him 45 minutes of the 48, and he can overpower you with a win. But because of how fast paced hockey is, it's extremely difficult to do that, and it's unheard of actually. But they know no one ever plays more than half the game normally, which is 30 minutes, and 30 minutes is a lot of the 60. So your bottom six matters a lot more in hockey than it does in probably any sport. Your bench players matter more in hockey than any other sport. I would have to say that.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And then on to another team that really surprised me was the Oilers. They got Matthias Ekholm from the
Yes, but
Nashville
yeah,
Predators.
Matthias Ekholm, a great defenseman. Uh, that's another one of the trades I wanted to mention. I'll kind of supplement this with the John Klingberg deal as well, because Klingberg, they did not have to give up much. Minnesota did. So Minnesota and Edmonton, two teams in the West, picking up defensemen when they needed it. I think both of those pickups are huge. I would argue Matthias Ekholm is the better pickup and the bigger pickup, even though he costed more, because Ekholm, I think, is better, especially for what the Oilers need, which is defense. And Klingberg has offensive abilities, but he's kind of fallen off the past couple of years. Even with the Stars last year, he didn't perform as well as he did on that big Stanley Cup run. But Minnesota needed another defenseman, and they got that.
Yeah, and I also want to talk about the Klingberg. He really didn't get off to a good start this year, and it seemed like free agency, there was that big deal with the Stars, and they didn't want to give him a long term or as much money in the long term contract, and it looked like no one else did. So I thought Anaheim was going to trade him at the deadline, which they did, but yeah,
I
they
think that was
didn't
the whole
really.
point. Pay him a
Yeah,
lot and then trade him at the
yeah,
deadline because it's a 1 year deal, and he will be a free agent again. And maybe he signs back. I highly doubt it because of his inconsistencies there. And I really thought
mhm,
that Anaheim was going to be so much better, but they're obviously
yeah,
not. And that they needed to trade him because they probably would have lost him. And getting something, even though it's only a fourth round pick and maybe some other guys in there sprinkled in there, it's not enough. But maybe it is for a 1 year deal. Getting something is better than nothing.
yeah. I would agree, and I thought Edmonton made one more deal. Maybe it was a defenseman, or I can't remember. Was it just Ekholm?
I don't remember.
Okay. Oh no, Coyotes trade Nick Boygast Gusted or Bjugstad to the Oilers.
Uh huh. Well, I
I
think
didn't,
another one of the biggest trades is Jacob Chikrin getting traded. I'm sure you saw that, right? From the Coyotes.
yeah, I mean, oh, was that from the Coyotes or to the Coyotes?
From
Okay.
He got traded to the Senators, which I think is a huge deal for them. Another
Oh,
defenseman
okay. I
that's
remember
really
this.
good.
Yeah.
He's an outstanding player, probably the best player that was on, or not even probably. Uh, he was definitely the best player on the um, Coyotes, and him getting traded was probably inevitable. Even though I probably would have tried to keep him, but it would be really hard to.
Yeah. And then another one I had was the Jonathan Quick to the Vegas. It looks like I know he hasn't really played well, and it was a shock that the Kings traded him, but they
I
got
pray we get a
forward.
Vegas Kings series. I pray. I
Yeah,
want it
I
so
like it
badly.
though that he's with Vegas because it seems like wasn't that kind of how Flurry ended, how Flurry started with Vegas? Like
Sort
everyone
of, but
loved.
it was very different because Jonathan Quick is one of the best American goalkeepers of all time. His entire career spent as a starter with one team. He's the reason why they won in 2012, a huge reason why they won in 2014. One of the best playoff goalies in league history. And apparently, a lot of teams in the locker room, a lot of players in the locker room, mad. Jonathan Quick never left his house. Like he got traded to Columbus and just said, "No, I'm not leaving." It was, I think it's one of the most disrespectful trades I've seen in a very long time. He didn't have to be included in that trade. I think he deserved to stay with LA his entire career, and seeing him get traded, I I I vehemently disagree with this trade, and I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I was shocked as well too. And I was kind of thinking with Fleury, didn't it seem like there were only a few years left when he got to Vegas? Or am I just not
Sort of,
remembering?
because he wasn't necessarily in the prime of his career, or at least as many people saw. But it definitely worked out for him, obviously.
Yeah. So I'm curious how quick plays and the Vegas I saw um, Thompson has been injured, so they do need a goalie. So I thought that was one, and then I think there's another trade or lack of trade. Any other trades you're thinking of?
Not really.
Oh, I think I'm interested with Greenway because I remember Greenway. There's a drop of Greenway, and he's no longer with the Wild.
What do you mean? There's
Um,
a drop with Greenway?
well, there's like you talking about Greenway, like
Oh yeah,
Greenway,
yeah, 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 yeah. I am a big proponent of Greenway. I think he's a good player, and I think that's a good pickup for the Sabres. Yeah.
and I will also want to talk Dennis Gurianov to the Canadians. Yeah, to Montreal. I think is a good pickup for them. I get why the Stars did it too because Gurianov just has struggled since the Cup run, and there will be flashes. So I like it from the Canadians and from the Stars' perspective because the Stars get someone that can help them really right now, similar to what Gurianov, but the ceiling for Gurianov I think fits Montreal as well. What do you think?
Yeah, but he's fallen off historically, and that Cup run really was the last time I saw him actually play well.
Yeah, I just think I get betting on the speed of Gurianov.
I
And
understand.
yeah.
It's still I'm not that high on him anymore.
Well, yeah, I was fine that he left the Stars. It was just like nostalgia, but that's a thing I also want to talk about. Stars didn't really make one big splash. They kind of made small moves, not really betting on too much on the future. And then we also saw the Predators sell, and I think maybe the biggest team in the West trading was probably the Wild.
It's hard to say. There were some big moves. I would argue it may be Edmonton, but
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Edmonton's also up there.
it's tough to see. The West is wide open.
I agree. And the East, I think probably the biggest one was the Rangers, and I'm not sure if they closed the gap a little bit, but they didn't take the number one.
It's more see where the we know what the Bruins are. They didn't make huge trades, so we know what they have, and they didn't trade away anybody major. But with the Rangers, it's a whole new fit, a whole new system for these new guys, and we will have to see how they perform before I make any judgment.
Yeah, that's very true. And then the Penguins also look like they're kind of going all in, and we'll just have to see how it works.
Mm-hmm. Penguins are a
Uh,
team that's old, so yeah,
yeah, that's true. I believe we got to 5 trades, right?
yeah, we did,
Or
we did. We
okay,
did.
cool. Yeah, that's our review of the trade deadline. We'll probably spend a few more episodes talking about what happened in the coming weeks. That's all we got. Make sure to check out all our other videos. Thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.